here!
What is going on, everybody? Nasdorachi coming back at you again today with another video for Dragon Ball Legends. Now, what we will be talking about today, of course, is the first tier list of the new year. Our first classification of how all the characters in the game stack up in the year 2020. Now, the reason I stalled a little bit there is because there's an asterisk. I do not have every single new EX unit included on the list. It's mostly Sparkings and some of the necessary EX units for team builds, or just ones that function on the same level as most Sparking units. So that's pretty much the source material we're going to be covering for today. I do have to give a big shout out to Thon, or Devil Takoyaki, on Twitter for helping create the image. He's been doing this for me a few times recently, and it takes a huge amount of the prep and legwork for making these videos off my shoulders. So I appreciate that quite a bit. And as well for Slanak, who provides the source tier list that we're going to be going over here. I did make a couple alterations, and as well, before I even show the list, you guys do have to know that a lot of this tier list is dependent on a few different things. The characters are not only ranked by how good they are as a single unit by themselves with their kit, they are also ranked based off of team relevancy in the meta right now, and as well, they are also kind of ranked, in your head you have to assume that you have every single character in the game for this list to be fully applicable to you. If you have an extremely highly stacked God Key team, then characters for fusions or regeneration that you might not have a bunch of will not be as relevant for you. So do keep that in mind, that the list is based around all the characters in the game and having accessibility to all of them. That's really the only way this works, because I can't make, custom lists for characters if your collection is incomplete. So with that being said, we are going to jump into the image here and go over all the material. Let's waste no time and jump right in. As well, I will have the image up on my Twitter and in the Facebook group, so if you do want to download the image to look at yourself or to keep just for reference material, you can find it via those social platforms, and both of them should be in the pinned comment down below in the comments section. Starting off, the category we have listed here, Slanak had it as the KC Scott exclusive, but I've renamed it to Beyond Broken, because probably a lot of you guys don't know who KC Scott is. So, Beyond Broken, this is implying that these units are generally going to be Zenkai 3 and up. Even at Zenkai 1, they will kind of effectively function on this tier, but they just get more and more beyond as you keep stacking Zenkai levels on them. Both Beerus and Boo are exceptional units. The reason that I have Boo listed first on this list is only because Boo is pretty much just as good as Beerus, but doesn't require Whis. He doesn't require a secondary unit to really function at full potential. And that's why I gave Boo the edge here. But again, if you have a really well-developed God Key team and not so much regen, this is going to be the other way around for you. So there is a little bit of subjectivity to the list, and otherwise we're going to go mostly with objective classifications here. The Zenkai Boo has an amazing kit for defense, durability, healing, and dealing damage with the utility of his lock-ins. You can exploit all of that and really run matches because of it. He suffers a little bit versus hyper-powerful purple units. That's the best way to kill him, is a Rising Rush from someone like Super Saiyan 4 Goku or Vegito. Outside of that, he is pretty much a really tough contender that you may have problems dealing with due to his constant healing and high defense. Beerus, similarly, is kitted just out the booty hole. He's got buffs, debuffs, removal of buffs, extremely high damage and defense, a mini heal built in, the ultimate arts technique with the legendary finish, really effective team synergy between him and Whis, and God Key team just being hyper powerful in general. So Beerus, again, highest level Zenkai, they're going to be well beyond the rest of the units in this game in terms of how they stack up. I do expect Zenkai to continue this trend, but I also expect it to get more accessible in the future as more Zenkai units show up. You just think about it for a second. When we have like 30 or 40 Zenkai units in the game, they're not going to have 30 or 40 independent banners on the summon page for all of those units. So some things will change as time goes on. right now the Zenkai system really just truly is a benefit for the whales, and as time again moves on, it'll be more accessible to everybody else. I'm sure they'll add more missions and more ways to get this power as time moves on. Moving down to the Z tier, these are all extremely well kitted units, hyper powerful, and some of the best examples of how characters can be built in this game. Super Vegeto's been in the game for a while. We don't really need to spend too much time on the characters that have been around for quite a while, and I have like 13, 10, 7, 8. I don't know how many other tier list videos I do have, you guys, but they are in the Legends playlist. So if you do need reference material on some of the older characters, feel free to check those out. So Vegito, again, hyper powerful character with one of the best kits for an individual unit in the game, and he's been holding a spot at the top for a while. The Fusions team is a little bit less relevant than some of the generic Saiyans teams or the GT teams at this current point in time, especially with Shin Shenron and Baby Vegeta on the way. So it is arguable that Super Saiyan 4 Goku might deserve this top slot right here. We'll get to him in a second, but again, just depending on the structure of what your characters look like and what your team builds, you know, what you have accessible to you, it is logistically, theoretically feasible that this Goku should be higher on the list now. Next up, we have the Yellow Gohan, one of the easiest and most powerful characters to use in the entire game. He makes a successful transition from defense to offense with all the associated buffs. He has a great lock-in with a guaranteed super move if you want to finish the combo while the enemy can't do anything about it, and a very exploitable green card. So again, very simple to use. Even novice players can pick up this Gohan and get results with him. Because of that and his good team flexibility, definitely he earns a top spot on the chart. Super Saiyan 4 Goku next, a damage powerhouse, fits on multiple teams between GT, generic Saiyans, and Son family. More so, especially now that Super Saiyan 3 Shallot is a thing, the generic Saiyans are doing quite well. So very good team flexibility, very good offensive power, very good ultimate arts technique, the ability to buff himself and remove buffs with the green card, which is great because a lot of team builds nowadays do rely on debuffing your enemies, so this is a good counter for that. And good defense, not the best defense, but good reliable defense and a little heal when he swaps around. So he is a really good character, you guys. One of the best currently, probably the best Goku that we have in the game at the moment. LF Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Vegeta is next. He as well is an extremely powerful unit built around high damage, prolonged combos, a very powerful green card with a heal that gives him combat sustainability, extremely high damage ultimate arts technique with a little miniature lock-in going on, and again, just very high damage, durable unit. He is a little bit less value as compared to when he first came out because of the Beerus Zenkai. There is a little bit of conflict on the God Key team for which green unit you may want to bring. Of course, you could just bring both of them, but that might not always fit your needs for color situations because you're pretty much relegated to bringing Whis. Also with Beerus, you might not want to run the double green red. That's just one small concern with the Vegeta. Again, you can use them in tandem or you can use the Vegeta instead and still get amazing results. So if you do not have the green Beerus, or if you do not have him at the point where you can Zenkai him, then this Vegeta is definitely better than the Beerus. It's really only that Zenkai that's making the Beerus your best green God Key option. Blue Baby is coming up next. He is a shining example of what a support character should be in the game. His healing support ability is absolutely amazing for regeneration. It's a team that's almost exclusively based around characters that can heal. I think only the EX Evil Boo, Slug, and the Sparking Super Boo. Those are like the only three I know off the top of my head. Maybe EX Slug and EX Janemba as well. But those are the only ones that don't have a heal. Every single other relevant regeneration unit is going to heal, which makes their synergy with Baby that much better. And he does a reasonable amount of damage too, and can take hits reasonably well also. He's got a pretty good green card too. So Baby is definitely one of the best additions we've had to the game recently. He almost single-handedly resurrected regeneration, and then Zenkai Buu came around and really resurrected regeneration. So between both of these characters, regeneration is totally a highly stacked top-level team now at this point. Moving on to the next, we have Super Saiyan 3 Shallot specifically. I know the picture shows him in base form here, but we are under the assumption that you have access to the Super Saiyan 3 transformation. He's just got absurd levels of strike damage, more so if you include Hero Nail on the bench, who buffs up to 100% of hero strike damage, and Shallot just pummels anybody. He has no natural color weakness in the game when it comes to PvP, because there's no dark units, so he has no bad matchups versus anybody, and that adds an incredible amount of value to his character. He doesn't have the best defenses when it comes to things like Rising Rush, so he's still a relatively low utility unit. You don't want to throw him out in any situations that are too risky. Outside of that, he's got phenomenal defenses to pair with his phenomenal strike offense, and he even does extremely good blast damage as well. So really exciting that they made Shallot competitive on the top echelon of characters in the game and fit him on any team in the game realistically, especially if it's got Saiyans on it. That's really where he belongs since he is a Saiyan health buffer. But again, kind of just resurrected the generic Saiyans builds and made them completely relevant to use and play with. So Shallot is an amazing unit. You do have to be wary of his time transformation and don't get stuck in any too long combos or lock-ins, because if you run the transformation out, he does lose pretty much all of his value. So play around that and you will just be slaughtering cats left and right with Shallot, which again is amazing. I can't wait to see how they work in the Super Saiyan Blue or potential Super Saiyan 4 transformations with him also. I bet those will be a sight to behold. And from this point onwards, I think Shallot will pretty much stay competitive with the rest of the units in the game, unless for whatever reason they take too long to update him, moving into the future. Dropping down to S+ tier, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. Only reason that he's not higher up here with the Goku is because his kit, while extremely offensive just like the Goku, does lack a little bit of the defense and some of that little healing, and overall he lacks some of the sustainability and durability in combat that the Goku has. And that's pretty much the only reason why he's a little bit lower, but also has great team diversity on generic Saiyans, GT, or Vegeta family, so he's usable in more than one spot. Next up, the LF Namek Goku, another character that's a little dated but was extremely good for the longest time. The only reason his value has dropped a little bit is because of the Battle System 2.1 changes, where he cannot just, aggressively backfloat or play passively to just counter all day, because that's not as much of a relevant playstyle anymore. He did suffer a little bit, and as well with the release of Zenkai Buu, Zenkai Beerus, and the new Green Gogeta and LF Vegeta as well, there are a lot of good counter options to him now. And those two reasons are basically why his value dropped a little bit, where he's kind of back out of the cheat tier status and in the regular pool of high tier units. So we don't need to spend too much more time talking about him. Just a great last man standing unit, but he will not stand up to Zenkai Buu or Zenkai Beerus at all. He will get dusted immediately. So you do have to be wary of that situation. New Green Gogeta next. He was the missing piece that Fusions did kind of need to maintain relevancy. However, he didn't come out super insanely overpowered, so he does fill the role for Fusions better than Super 17 by far. He's got a great green card, he's got very respectable damage, but he's lacking a little bit in terms of defense and survivability. It's not too challenging to kill off this Gogeta, and there's not too much utility in his kit besides his green card that you have to play around. So good aggressive character, S+ tier for sure, very good fusion unit, but the Fusions team is still probably their top tier team, but they're getting towards the lower end of top tier because they don't really have multiple options. Like you see these other teams like God Key now has 2 God Gokus, 2 God Vegetas, 2 God Blue versions of each of them. So there's many other options for those teams, which keeps them top tier and a little bit more relevant than Fusions. But I don't expect Fusions to be going away. There's going to be a lot of hyper powerful fusion units keeping this team relevant moving into the future. Cell is next. He is a staple on your regeneration teams, also functional on androids in future. One of the oldest units in the game that's held the highest value for the longest amount of time. He's just exceptionally good at dealing damage, and when you start stacking red stars on him, he gets incredibly tanky also. So definitely deserves his value, and he's been holding it for a long time. Potentially the undisputed champion of older Sparkings from 2019 and before. Next up, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku. Arguably still a much better option for the blue role in God Key than the new transforming Vegeta. His Z ability is better for the team, and his kit just works a little bit better. We'll get to this Vegeta when we get down to him, but the Goku, again, he's just a better option still for that slot of that team, and he's a phenomenal character. Transitions from defense to offense quite nicely and has a reasonably good kit. Buhan is next here. Just a phenomenal regeneration unit again. Very high damage. Great green card that can block out pretty much anything in the game except for a Rising Rush. And he's got a good main ability also. Combines very nicely with the Zenkai Buu for that dual synergy there. And then you can throw Cell for the green-green-yellow build to take out purple units. It works very well if you have it. So now that regeneration is back on top, I do think this Buhan is the best Buu unit in the game that's not Zenkai Buu. Of the un-Zenkai Buu units, I think this Buhan is the best out of all of them. And just phenomenal, great unit to have on your team. Red Janemba coming up next. He came out and immediately hard countered this yellow Gohan due to his extra damage to movies and his ability to do good strike damage in general. Make him a valuable asset to the regeneration team. I do think he's considerably better than Kid Buu because he doesn't struggle with Ki nearly as much, and he's got a kit that benefits the team a little bit better. Kid Buu is still a really good unit, don't get it twisted. It's just this Janemba is very nice. Still, you don't always end up using him. He's a little bit more of a specialized unit when you run up against something like movies or this, specifically this yellow Gohan, or maybe a mirror match against Cell here, full power Frieza. But outside of that, you might be using Buhan, Zenkai Buu, and Cell a little bit more, but he's still a great option for the team and a super functional character. Great green card and great damage from his blue card because it's got that massive damage modification tag. So I love Janemba as well. I enjoy using him and definitely deserves his spot here. Older blue transformation Vegeta coming up next. He is still, in my opinion, leagues ahead of the new one that just came out. Just better kit, higher damage, the blast armor, better team viability. He's a Vegeta family buffer as well, but he's just overall, in my opinion, much better than the new Vegeta. Bojack next. Very good in conjunction with the yellow Gohan and this blue Vegeta or Janemba on movies teams. And he definitely has the best cover ability in the entire game, which can make enemies nervous to even continue to do combos. And good strike damage from him. But you're mostly bringing him for his strike damage and his cover cut, which, you know, that's enough value right there to make it insanely worthwhile. Rosé is next. Very powerful member of the God Key team. Comes with high damage and good debuffs that he applies to the enemy team. Good Ultimate Arts card damage as well. Just very good for your red roll. Better than Whis for red roll on the team, but Whis does have the synergy with Beerus still. So you definitely have to keep that considered. But a lot of the times you can run Beerus with no Whis and this guy here, and the debuffs will make up for some of the buffs that Whis is throwing out. Not all of them, but some of them. So that is definitely a viable option for sure. Future Trunks, the purple Vegeta family one, coming up next. Vegeta family is getting more and more relevant, and this Trunks is a great high damage unit. He's capable of doing lots of combo damage, lots of blue card damage, and he's pretty tough and hard to get rid of as well, provided you're not using an OP yellow unit against him. Transforming Blue Gogeta is next. Still a staple on your fusions teams. Extremely high damage, very, very durable unit. And again, just fusion doesn't have too much versatility right now, so he's holding his value very statically, as not many other options are available. LF Super Saiyan 3 Goku next. He just got that really nice platinum equip that raised his value quite a bit. He is exceptional on teams with Super Saiyan 3 Shallot. He's got similar functionality to the Yellow Perfect Cell when it comes to the instant transmission dodge. And again, I do think that he is an exceptionally good character and worthy of this spot right here. Definitely far from the best in terms of Legends Limited units, but also not the worst either by a big margin, I think, right now at this point. Next up, we have Red Vegito. Very, very good defense unit and lock-in mechanics. He also provides insanely good Z ability support for Super Vegito and fusions in general. Their defenses are much better off with him at least on the bench, but if you bring him to battle, you're exploiting his defenses and his lock-in. Next up, we have EX Nail. He is still currently Regeneration's best purple option. He's got a great double offense buff, and if you get him to 6 stars, he'll be good for your Namek Saga teams as well, because he'll bring that into the equation also. Great scaling damage buffs as he continues to combo out, and really good blue card damage. He also has some death passives, making him a reasonable support character for your Regeneration team also. Dropping down to S next, we're going to go through these a lot faster at this point, except for some of the brand new units that are starting to pop in down here. So, Hit is your critical strike monster. You have to protect him, low defenses, but extremely good damage across the board. Next up, we have a trio of Lineage of Evil characters. Lineage of Evil is still holding extremely high value due to how many Saiyans are popular in the meta. The characters have high damage, good kits, high defense, and a lot of other things going for them. The team doesn't have too much quirky utility ability, like, you know, Gogeta's green card when it comes to the Immobilize, or Gohan's green card, but they do, well, kind of with this Frieza, but you know, there's just not much utility on the team in terms of quirkiness. It's just outright damage and battle power and defense and Saiyan damage. They're a really good team. They're holding relevancy high on the chart. Next up, Zenkai Goku. Kind of a more specific unit, since some of the more powerful aspects of his kit are purely based around Lineage of Evil. That makes him take a little bit of a loss, that he's, again, a little bit more specifically useful than the other higher placed Zenkai units. But his damage numbers are absurdly good, and he's got great last man standing anchor potential, which does kind of set him up at odds with the LF Namek because you can't have 2 characters left alive. I do think that he's not the worst of the Zenkai units so far. It's probably Broly, but that could, again, potentially be debatable just depending on what your teams look like. There's nothing wrong with the Goku. It's just, you know, he was the first of the Zenkai, which probably means that over time he'll end up being one of the least, you know, overwhelming, one of the least impressive. Next up, we have the new God Goku. By far the better of the 2 new units on our currently active new banner. He's got good defenses, great utility, great ways of just interrupting and disabling different aspects of combat and screwing your enemy up. So he is actually functionally a really good character. He also fills a competitive slot for God Ki. Now, God Ki has the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, who's more of an assassin, like damage dealing character, and this Goku will come in and fill the role a lot better with interrupts and disruption and defense that the other Vegeta won't have very much of. So he is a very good competitive character for sure. Definitely the better of the 2 again. Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku is a great yellow option for God Ki, and he does a lot of damage. Whis is just Beerus's best buddy. If you're not bringing Beerus or you don't want to run Whis, you default to Rosé, but whenever you're bringing Beerus, Whis is an extremely good companion for him for his support and his healing, and, you know, he's a passable unit on his own as it is. He's got a really good green card too. Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta has fallen below the new Goku because Goku is a little bit more durable, he's got a little bit more sustainability in combat, and he's got a little bit more versatility when it comes to his kit and what he can do in battle. He's not as hyper-focused around block, strike damage, ult, or rising rush, and then swap out. That's pretty much what this Vegeta does right here. Goku has a lot more options in combat, so that makes him, in my opinion, a better character. However, since he's newer, if you have tons and tons of stars on this Vegeta, that might still be debatable, you guys. This Goku is more of a side grade, an additional option, not a mandatory or meta-defining upgrade for the God Ki team. Android 13 is next. He's got a good cover change mechanic. He's great damage, great on androids, good Z ability. Purple 17 is next. Still probably your best purple android option. He's definitely better than Android 15 for sure. High defenses, good kit, ways of reducing enemy ki, the green barrier, bubble shield, and again, it's more blast damage than strike, but still a good character. Zamasu coming up here pretty high on the list. I actually might drop Zamasu down a little bit, but I know why Slanak put him up here, mostly just because of his extremely high defense in conjunction with Baby. He just gets heals for days and really never runs out of healing and will stay alive for a considerable amount of time. You see games that sometimes run the clock down to 0, especially if they bring Zenkai Bu as well. If you bring Baby, Zamasu, and Zenkai Bu, it's going to be an extremely long match in most circumstances. Zenkai Broly is next. An amazing unit, do not get me wrong. His strike damage is phenomenal. He's up here in the S category with all the other really high tier units. So don't think I'm speaking badly about him. He's probably just the least useful out of all the Zenkai units because the movies team already has a lot of extremely powerful blue options, and he's not really necessary. His Z ability is also not really that great. And just really hyper focused around strike damage, and that's pretty much it. So not a lot of utility in his kit. I think he might have some mini lock-ins now if you get him Zenkai'd high enough. But again, it's just really just you come in, you do strike damage with him. There's not too much else going on with him. Now, again, same thing can be said about Vegeta, but he's got blast armor. He's got other tools that make him a little bit better at doing the job under most circumstances. EX Broly is next. This is actually a really good placement for him, having another EX unit that's this relevant. He is very, very high damage, and he is great in conjunction with Hit for that yellow-yellow-blue synergy right there. Blue Android 13 is next. Good blast damage, reasonable main ability, and pretty good defenses. A good staple on your Androids team. Super 17 and LF Gohan are next. The Hybrids team has fallen off. The Son family team doesn't really need him anymore, but he still does function extremely well when used primarily on Son family. He's still a great option in S tier for the team. It's just he's starting to age out a little bit, and he's more competitive for his spot on the team between, builds that include, Goku's and Super Saiyan 3 Shallot instead. You have other Gokus like the Red Zenkaiku and the LF Namek Goku, who are both anchor units already for Last Man Standing. It just gets a little competitive for this Gohan. Still an extremely high value unit, still a great bench on the Son family or Hybrids teams. Just again, falling off a little bit due to how competitive the meta and the team builds are getting. Blue Cooler is next. Great supporting leader for your Lineage of Evil teams. And he has like the Bardock Super Saiyan swap buffs going on and pretty good defenses when you start stacking red stars on him. It's just he works well on Lineage of Evil buffing these other units, which is why he's still holding a lot of value. Maya is next. She's great for females, great for future, great supporting unit, and maybe not the best damage, but she makes up for it in other areas with utility heals and green cards. Red Goku is next. Great bench on your Son family team or your GT team. He is still effective in battle as well for doing lots and lots of strike damage. However, he is nowhere near as good as the Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta for the GT team. Next up, LF Goten. Again, the Son family team doesn't really need him with Super Saiyan 4 Goku in the mix now. Super Saiyan 4 Goku, much, much, much better. Hybrids is not the most relevant team right now. They're not really placed super high in the meta at the moment, so he's fallen in value considerably. He's also a glass cannon. He has a little bit of utility and buffs going on in his kit. He does extremely good blast damage and a great ultimate arts technique. However, he dies very quickly and again struggles for competitive placements on teams. Next up, the new Vegeta. We actually can spend a little bit of time talking about this new Vegeta and why he is placed so low. His Z ability doesn't fit God Key very well, and he's primarily a God Key unit. I mean, Vegeta family, but he's, in terms of transformation and his status, he's a God Key unit that doesn't fit into the God Key team, which is a top meta team that didn't really need him. His Z ability doesn't work for it, and they already have this Goku right here who's extremely good. On Vegeta family, he competes very heavily with the older transforming Vegeta, who is still arguably much better for dealing tons and tons of damage, and has the blast armor on every single strike card, which is an incredible asset in the meta these days. This Vegeta is entirely dependent on gaining buffs from doing large combos. You'll combo out, use the main to get 4 more cards, combo out, you'll have tons of buffs, use a blue card, draw another card, All those cards are affecting his buffs for drawing cards. However, Battle System 2.1 directly nerfed the damage of longer combos, especially after more sidestep inputs have been made. So his buffs are on a diminishing damage scale that actually drops over time below or equal to the point where it would be the same if he was attacking unbuffed in the first place. So due to the way that his kit is designed around super high combos and how much high combo damage has been nerfed, it's really just a wonky setup for this character. And again, does not fit into God Key very well. Fits on Vegeta family, doesn't really fit on generic Saiyans too well. There's just a lot of better, more competitive options. With that being said, he still has absurdly high blast damage stats when he is transformed. He still can do damage. It's just the Vegeta family team is not quite there yet. And even if they were, I still think this older blue transforming Vegeta is better. Next up, the Ginyu Force, or EX Ginyu specifically. You generally run them all together or on some type of Frieza Force build, so just assume that all of the Ginyu Force is kind of stacked right here. They are an extremely high competitive, high tier, great team for PvP, and they were all free to play, very easy to get. So very, very high value for the Ginyu Force. Next up, Red Frieza. He's got very, very high damage. Not really any utility to his kit outside of that. He's got a little bit of healing before he transforms and as he transforms. So decent sustain in combat. But really he's just strike and super move damage. You transform, you do that. Because of that narrow focus and because Lineage of Evil has quite a few better options, you still will bring him when you do need red really badly, but you will generally not bring him when bringing red is not a priority, which is just why he's got a little bit less value, his narrow kit. Transforming Gohan is next. He is great for your future or hybrids teams. He's got good utility with his green card and his weird like reverse lockout by using his green card. Tapion is next. He is good for the movies team, but arguably not as good as the new Janemba that just came out. More of a supporter and a little bit less on the damage dealing side. EX Zanya is next. Another great blue option for the movies team. When she dies, you get a lock, and she supports the team fairly well and does respectable damage. Green movies Goku Spirit Bomb Absorbed is next. Good anti-androids character, otherwise his damage numbers are usually pretty low, especially in the beginning part of the fight. However, in the late game, his damage does start to climb, and his ultimate arts nuke is extremely powerful as well. It looks really cool. He is still a pretty good unit for your Son family or movies teams, or a couple other builds you could probably throw him on as well. Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, one of your less useful fusion units just because he doesn't really do a whole lot of damage at all. He's got reasonable utility with his green cards and with the feint on his ultimate arts, and reasonable defense too. It's just yellow, I think, is probably the next color that Fusions needs to get, updated and more relevant. They could use a better yellow unit for sure. Kid Buu is next. He is a great offensive unit, but he does struggle with ki. The DBS Bardock is next, another hybrid defense and offense unit, but mostly defense. He wasn't very impactful on the meta when he came out, but he is a good option for any teams like Saiyans or whoever you might consider using him with, movies as well, but definitely not better than your yellow Gohan all the way up here. So very competitive in terms of placement on teams. Brienne is still great, leader for your females team, highly defensive. It's just females team has not been keeping up with the meta recently. Similar for Kakunsa, very high damage melee unit, but females has not been keeping up with the meta as much as they could be. They're still functional, they're just not top meta or hyper competitive. Super Saiyan Bardock next, your leader of course for the Trinity teams. We spend no time on him whatsoever. He runs in conjunction with any Super Saiyan 1 unit, of which there are very many powerful ones, especially like Zenkai Goku and Zenkai Broly. That's pretty much what's keeping his value held here, is just how well he supports Super Saiyan 1s. The Rising Battle Ginyu Goku is next. He's great for your Frieza Force builds, and he is actually a pretty effective unit. He's got a pretty good kit, as long as you can use his green cards to remove his debuffs for not knowing how to use Goku's body properly. EX Beerus, capable of doing lots and lots of damage. He's good to combine with Whis and Zenkai Beerus, however, he generally will lose out to the Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku. GT Goku here, very, very good blast damage, arguably much better damage output than the Super 17, but also much more paper thin. The 17 can take much more punishment, comes with a little bit better utility with his team-wide paralyze, and overall better for the GT team if you have him at 6 stars or higher. Now, if the Goku's highly starred, or if you're wanting to buff lots of Saiyans with blast damage and strike defense on your Saiyans-based GT teams or Saiyans teams, then he would probably be a better option, at least for the bench. Red Android 18 is next. You know, I don't have her, never played with her, and I don't think I only played against her like twice, so she's good for females, I guess, but not as good as using Rebrand, Rosie, and Kakunsa, though. Purple Goku Black, a little bit underwhelming when it came to his defense, and future teams not super relevant right now, so I mean, he's holding a reasonable spot in A tier. He's got some good buffs, he just needs to take some hits and use some green cards to get his kit rolling. The movie's Gohan from the Broly movie, very good defender for your Son family teams, but he's overshadowed again by a lot of better options a little bit further up the charts for Son family. However, still completely functional in combat. Green Android 14 is next. Good strike damage dealer with a kit that's hyper-focused around that. Does pretty good blue card damage as well. He's a reasonable choice for your androids, but I personally like Super 17 better still. We got Rosie next. Same thing as Kakunsa and Rebrand. Female's team is not hyper-relevant right now, but her damage is pretty good. She's more of the late game unit, where Kakunsa is the early game unit. This EX Krillin is holding value up here because he combines extremely well with the Zenkai Goku on your Namek Saga teams. He basically just kind of dies, and then Goku gets that much better. That's just one of those types of units. Next up, the Blue Pod Frieza works good on Frieza Force or blue-based teams. Frieza Force, of course, is relevant with the Ginyu characters as well as the Rising Battle Ginyu Goku, but outside of that, probably won't see too much use coming from him. Dropping down to B here, these characters are more often than not bench units or used on teams out of preference or necessity when you don't have a better unit further up the list. The Green Gohan's mostly a bench unit for Son family. The LF Super Saiyan 3 Goku is superior in pretty much every way. He's competent, but probably not competitive these days in terms of battle usage in battle. He does have the instant transmission. He can use it twice as well, as compared to Goku only being able to use it once. It's just Goku's trade-off is an Ultimate Arts that does ridiculously absurd amounts more damage and just better stats in general. Even though Goku's not the best damage dealer, still leagues ahead of this Gohan. This yellow Vegeta is usually just a bench for your blast-based Saiyan teams, especially if the red Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta's on it, in which case the GT team as well. Good bench for that. He double buffs blast attack and defense. Rildo is next. Came out too soon for the GT team when it didn't have a tag. Even if it did, he doesn't support it with his Z ability, and that makes him non-competitive with Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta for the spot on the GT team. However, if you do want to use him, he can. He still does reasonable damage and nullifies endurance. I wouldn't personally recommend it, though, unless you're just trying to have some fun. Kaba is next. Universe 6 doesn't have a dedicated team that's put together yet. He doesn't synergize with Hit very well. And also, he was used before with like a dual Vegeta Kaba setup, but it's just not really relevant these days. Red Vegeta is next. Pretty much got replaced by Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta on all Vegeta family or Saiyan-based teams where you'd need a red unit. The Green movie's Broly is actually not terrible. He's got lots of green cards, lots of blue cards, does a lot of interrupts with the green cards, and does lots of damage with the blue cards. Strike attack is okay, blast attack is okay, defenses are a little bit, I don't know, they're kind of just borderline okay, but he's just less impressive than most of the other Brolys. I do like his green card though. I wish the Zenkai Blue Broly had his green card, and then we'd probably be in some business. But yeah, the green Broly is a little lackluster nowadays, but still functional on movies teams. You just have better options. The future Gohan is next. He is a death buffer, and future team not super relevant. You don't really want to use him on Son family or hybrids. You have the yellow BoJack movies Gohan for that. So he's just kind of not competitive for any spots in any teams. Same thing with Slug. He's been replaced by Baby. Baby is infinitely better. Slug is pretty much a regeneration only unit. So you're kind of left to use him on the bench or not at all. You'll never want to use Slug over Baby really at all. Ever. Period. Yardrat Goku next. Okay unit. I mean, he does okay. You get him up to like 5 or 6 stars now too, but just not really competitive with other Super Saiyan units, Super Saiyan 1 units. The red Zenkai Goku is infinitely better than this guy on any teams that this guy could fit in that same spot. The yellow Super Saiyan God Vegeta is a bench only unit for God Ki. I would not use him in battle. Bench only. You have 2 better options already with God Ki between Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku and the EX Yellow Beerus, so I would never use this guy in battle. Blue Krillin is next. Supports blue teams. Blue team's not really relevant. He doesn't fit in nearly as well as the EX Purple Krillin because he doesn't share that Frieza Saga tag that works really nicely for that team build. So unfortunately, he's again just non-competitive. Red Cooler is next. He is a viable option for Lineage of Evil. He's just less viable than the red transforming Frieza. Still has good defenses, a good team heal, good green card, and pretty decent blue card also. But again, just use the Frieza if you have him or you're able to. If not, then definitely use this Cooler here. Next up, Legends Road Green Gohan. Good hybrid supporting unit. Again, that team's not super relevant. Yellow Son Family Goku is next. He's just, again, not a super competitive unit for his team. Purple Vegeta was buffed. He's still not that good. Android 15 is not very competitive. And again, all of these units are usable if you need them for their teams. When I'm just kind of speaking negatively on them down here, I'm just saying why they're down here as compared to units that are much higher. They're just not competitive with units that are higher up on the list. I could say that for pretty much all of them, but Chilled is very good, almost mandatory bench on Lineage of Evil teams, but you'll never use him, just bench only. Piccolo was never competitive with Cell, and Baby is a better support unit, so he's dropped. Broly was amazing back in the day, but his stats have totally aged out. His kit was good, but it's just not really competitive or relevant anymore. BoJack is infinitely better for your movies build. Red Gogeta is bench for fusions only. You don't really use him anymore. You have Red Broly here as bench for movies, but you generally won't use him either. You have Janemba as a better option. Definitely a better option for sure. Android 16 has no offensive capabilities whatsoever. Just tanks and blows himself up. He's very good at doing those 2 things, but not good at offense whatsoever. He's so bad at offense that he's almost not worth bringing at this point when stacked up against units like the Green 14 or Super 17. Kale and Caulifla next. Just Universe 6 has no team. They've aged out. There's better females. Young Nappa. The kids team isn't really a thing right now. There's not too many other spots for him. EX Gohan is nowhere near as competitive as EX Krillin for the spot on the Frieza Z Saga. So you don't really bring him. You don't need that yellow unit from him for that. Moving on to C next. This Boo is just one of your worst options for regeneration. You have Nail, who's much better. However, you could do a regen build that's like all Boo, and it still probably wouldn't be too terrible. Godku is bench on God Ki for crit and health. You will never use him in battle. He's outdated. Piccolo is outdated. Turles is a colored buffer movies team unit. He's outdated. Super Saiyan 3 Goku fits on the bench of every single Saiyan's team in the game for strike attack and blast defense buffs. He's an amazing bench, again, for any team with Saiyans on it. But he's so glassy that he will die way too fast to be used in battle. Saiyaman 2 is next. Females have aged out, and even if they hadn't, you'd use the Red Android 18 or the Universe 2 team instead. So, moving on, we have Yellow Super Saiyan 2 Goku. He's non-competitive. He doesn't have a good Z ability. You generally never use him anywhere. BoJack is just aged out. He's not really competitive for his spot on movies, especially with other BoJack and movies Gohan. IT Goku, his combat stats are terrible. He doesn't do any damage at all. But he is the pioneer of the instant transmission counter Kamehameha and the instant transmission swap-in save. So, good foundations in him, but just non-usable in terms of bringing him to battle. Purple Goku here has no reason to bring him to battle. He's aged out. Same thing with this Goku Black. He's too old and too non-competitive. I hate this blue Trunks. I always be pulling him, and it's such a troll. But he's not a good unit, you guys. Just very, very below average. Janemba doesn't do nearly enough damage, but he is still a respectable defensive buffer for your regeneration teams if you need some extra defense. F tier. Oh, all of these characters basically have just aged to the point, or new characters have came out multiple times over and forced them out of the meta, you guys. They're just non-competitive. Most of them are not even bench units, but some of them are. You'll have Captain Ginyu as a usable option with Frieza Force and Ginyu Force on the bench. You have Blue Kaioken Goku as a good Son family or blue buffer. Outside of that, the Green Cooler can be an okay buffer for movies. This Majin Vegeta can be an okay blast damage buffer for Saiyans, but not really. Outside of that, all these units are just dated out, aged, or honestly, were never really that good in the first place. Some of them are okay, but other ones are just desperately in need of a Zenkai or some type of balance update. Dabura is one of the worst, you guys. But they're not really in any particular order in the F tier here. It's hard to compare units that are that kind of bad with one another. We did get through the list a little bit quicker today than before, you guys. I definitely didn't want to spend another hour and a half doing this, but we're close to it. So I am going to cut it off here. Those of you that watched the video this long, I supremely appreciate your support on the channel. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a thumbs up. Helps feed the algorithm, spread it out so more people can see it. If you're new around here, consider subscribing so I can see you again on future videos. And of course, leave your comments down below. What do you think of the list? How do you think things stack up? I know plenty of people will not only agree, but plenty disagree as well. And that all cycles back to what I mentioned before, how different units are going to be different levels of effectiveness for different people, because not everyone has access to every single unit in the game, you guys. So everyone can have their own opinion. It's definitely awesome, and I want to know what it is, so leave it down below. Until the next video, have a great start to your February, you guys. Peace out, and we'll see you again soon.